Between the dust storm of May 16th and the Canadian wildfire smoke blanketing our skies since the end of May, it makes you wonder, what is really in the air and how can it impact us down at the surface? The May 16th dust storm was the worst to impact Chicago in nearly a century.
Chicago happened to be in the wrong place, wrong time.
So what exactly was in the dust? And was it harmful for those who were caught outside as the skies grew dark? Kevin Perry, professor of atmospheric sciences at the University of Utah, explains.
That the concentrations of particles at that time were higher than the federal standard for the criteria pollutants, which are basically particles smaller than 10 microns, PM10, and particles smaller than 2.5 microns, PM2.5. And it doesn't matter what those particles are made out of. If the concentrations are high enough, they can trigger an acute response in your body. And it's entirely likely that the number of people that went to the hospital for respiratory distress in the hours or days immediately after probably increased.
And that large plume of dust wasn't just dust. Unfortunately, we were likely breathing in other particles and potentially harmful chemicals too.
You have very good topsoil in the Midwest. That's why we grow so many crops there. But unfortunately, we also have to put in lots of fertilizer and lots of pesticides. And those chemicals hitch rides on the dust particles. And so it's actually possible that the chemical signature for agricultural dust includes some of those additives.
Perry goes on to say large dust particles will fall out of the atmosphere within a few hours simply due to gravity. But what may surprise you is how long the smaller dust particles can actually stay in the atmosphere.
And the only way to remove the smoke particles and the smaller dust particles is to have it rain. And so those particles will stay in the atmosphere until they're rained out, which typically takes about 2 weeks. Which means that the smoke that's coming from Canada is coming into the United States is likely to make it to Europe before it rains. And some of that dust particles that came through Chicago likely ended up in Europe as well.
The composition of dust and wildfire smoke may be different, but both can be equally as harmful to the human body. Some 200 wildfires are currently burning in Canada, and smoke has been blanketing the skies across a large portion of the United States. We spoke to Brian Urbaszewski, Director of Environmental Health Programs for Respiratory Health Association in Chicago.
Well, when you look at wildfire smoke, it's actually a soup of a lot of different harmful chemicals and irritants that cause airway and lung irritation.
While children, older adults, and those with asthma, lung, or heart conditions may be most at risk, we can all be impacted by the small particles in wildfire smoke.
Your body is designed to filter out dust and dirt before it reaches your lungs. There's hairs in your nose, there's mucus in your nose and in your throat that's designed to capture larger particles before they enter your lungs. But those systems passed down from our ancestors aren't really effective at capturing these really tiny particles. They're less than 1/30th the width of a human hair. They essentially bypass those filters in your body. And they can make it to the furthest reaches of your lungs, the deepest portions of your lungs, where they can actually get into your bloodstream and to the rest of your body.
There are steps you can take when the forecast calls for poor air quality due to wildfire smoke.
Some steps you'd want to take to protect yourself. First, stay indoors if you can, and stay comfortable. Don't go outside where the air pollution levels are higher. Stay inside. Use a HEPA, HEPA portable air filter if you have one. Just a high density filter that filters out a lot of these fine particles. If you don't, use air conditioning, which might provide a little benefit with the filter. And don't do vigorous activity outside, especially.